What's happening? Thanks for joining me on this Tuesday morning. It is very much appreciated. Yesterday I talked about the fact that the Patriots had not contacted, had not talked to, had not brought in Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and Spencer Rattler. And I thought, man, that's a little bit weird, right? They haven't talked to those guys since the Senior Bowl or the Combine. And maybe we take from it that they're not interested in those three guys. And maybe we look at that and we say to ourselves, they are solely focused to pick a quarterback at number 3. And then last night happened. Last night, we get the news from Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network that Michael Penix is in town. He had dinner last night. He is at Gillette today, going through the same kind of scenario that Drake May had gone through and Jaden Daniels had gone through and J.J. McCarthy went through just yesterday. So Penix, he's in town. He's going to be working with the team, talking to the coaching staff, having those conversations, going to the whiteboard, all of those things. We know Michael Penix is not going number 3, right? We feel pretty good about this idea of Penix not going in the top 3 of this draft. So what's going on here? Why are the Patriots bringing Penix in the last minute for this visit? Maybe they're legitimately interested in Michael Penix. Maybe they're bringing Penix in because they know the rest of the league was looking at this situation like I was looking at this situation yesterday and saying, man, are the Patriots just kind of giving everybody the idea as to what they're going to do at 3? If they don't bring in any other quarterbacks, doesn't it make sense that they're just going to stick and pick at 3? So what would you do if you were that team trying to mislead some teams across the league? You might bring a guy in like Penix or Bo Nix or Spencer Rattler to at least give them the idea, the illusion that you're not sticking and picking at 3, that you are open-minded to making a deal. Is that what's going on? Because with Penix not being a top 3 quarterback, the first option is trading down. If you're bringing Penix in because you have legitimate interest in the quarterback, you know he's not going to go top 3, then that means you're bringing Penix in to look at him in case you move down, right? Because there is this possibility that's been reported over the last week or so that Penix could go in the 11, 12, 13 range. At 11, you've got the Vikings. At 12, you've got the Broncos. At 13, you've got the Raiders. 3 teams that are looking for a starting quarterback. Ian Rappaport, going back almost 2 weeks ago on April 4th, he reported on the NFL Network that Penix was, quote-unquote, pretty likely to be a first-round pick and likely to be selected with one of the first 16 picks in the draft. Is that a coincidence? Is that a coincidence that 12 days ago, Rappaport is going on the NFL Network telling us that Penix is going to be a first-round pick, most likely, and that it's likely going to be in the top 16? Now you fast forward as we're on the precipice of the draft, and the Patriots, who are talking to teams about possibly moving down, bring Penix in last minute for a visit. Matches up, doesn't it? Penix has visited Denver. He has visited Vegas. He had a private workout with Minnesota. The New York Giants have also spent time with Michael Penix. So this could be a scenario where the Patriots are legitimately interested in Penix. They know they might move down. And if they move down, Penix could be a fit. And if they move down, it's likely going to be to a team that wants a quarterback, right? Only makes sense. Could be the Giants at 6. Could be the 3 teams I just mentioned with Minnesota, Denver, and the Vegas going back to back to back in this draft, 11, 12, 13. How about this option? How about this idea? What if the Patriots are talking to Penix, bringing him in for a visit because they might not use a first-round pick on a quarterback? Maybe that's what we're seeing here. Maybe the Patriots are interested in Penix if Penix is still there at 34 or late in the first round, and the Patriots decide to bypass the quarterback position at number 3 and do something else. That could be another scenario. I have a lot more on this. Trust me. We're also going to break down Michael Penix from pillar to post, give you the good, give you the bad, and I'll give you my answer as to whether or not I would draft Michael Penix. But first, don't forget to give us that thumbs up. More likes means more eyeballs. We officially passed our goal yesterday. Thanks to every single one of you who have supported this program. 3,000 subscribers to the Nick Cattle Show. We're moving on to the next one. Next goal is 3,500. But we hit 3,000 yesterday. I appreciate every single one of you. Let's continue to like the YouTube channel to expand the brand. Let's continue to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Rate and review on Apple Pods and Spotify. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Coming up on Thursday, our guy, that's right, our guy Jeff Howe will be joining us. Thursday, 11 a.m., 1 week out from the draft. Jeff Howe will be on this program. We'll talk about the latest regarding the Patriots in the draft. We'll talk about the latest regarding these other teams that are looking at quarterback in the draft. Jeff Howe will join us 48 hours from right now, a week out from the draft. My guy, Jeff, happy to have him on the show again. We'll do that on Thursday. So make sure you subscribe so you can get notified that Jeff Howe is joining us on Thursday, just in case you forget. Can't wait for that. All right. I've got another interesting scenario to paint regarding Michael Penix and the Patriots. Before I get to that, got a couple of super chats. $5 super chat from JB Brown. I appreciate you, JB, as always. He is also a Patreon member. And tonight, JB, don't forget, we've got our Discord community chat on that Patreon page. If you want to check out Patreon, $5 a month, $1.25 a week. Patreon.com/Nick Cattles. Preparing to go to Mexico for a Backstreet Boys beach concert my wife had to go to. How do we feel about that, folks? How are we feeling about JB going to Mexico for a Backstreet Boys beach concert? Penix in town. Love the chess moves by Eliot Wolf. Well, enjoy Mexico, JB. I went down to Mexico back in 2018 for a Zach Brown concert with the wife. It was a tremendous freaking time. Zach Brown's Castaway vacation. It was unbelievable. I hope you have a great time with the wife. Old school. Love it. Backstreet Boys. Live right, my friend. And yeah, this is what we could be seeing, JB, right? The chess moves. The chess moves. Maybe you're not ultra interested in Penix. Maybe he's not your guy. But if you bring him in, you have the rest of the league wondering, what the hell is Eliot Wolf up to? What are the Patriots doing? We thought they were going quarterback at 3. Are they doing something else? Are they going to pull the trigger on a trade? What's going on there in New England? Maybe, just maybe, we don't have it fully figured out. Everybody talking about how Eliot Wolf loves J.J. McCarthy. He's pushing hard for J.J. McCarthy. This could be a way of Eliot Wolf signaling to the league, you don't know what I'm thinking. Again, appreciate you, super chat. Josh Gemini says, Schrag said we'd probably be picking May or Daniels. Yes, Peter Schrager of the NFL Network came out with his mock draft today. I would warn people, Schrager was very, very wrong in his mock last year. He had Will Levis going to the Colts at 4. Doesn't mean he doesn't get good information. It's just a warning. It's the same warning I've given to you throughout this process. Mock drafts don't mean much. They just don't mean much. We have to understand that teams are leaking certain details and information and intel to try to mislead other teams, throw them off the track. So Schrager, I'm sure, has sources. He went out, his first Instagram post at the combine or whatever it was. He was hanging out with Andy Reid and all that, having dinner. He knows people in the league. He is plugged in. But don't forget the misinformation campaign that happens this late in the process. Appreciate your super chat. Josh, again, if you want to jump to the front of the line with your comment and question, you can do that by sending one of those super chats. All right, here's another interesting scenario that I have for you. What if the Patriots traded down to 11? What if they made this deal with the Minnesota Vikings? They get 11 and 23. What if the Patriots, the old chestnut checkers, And again, this is just a scenario because we don't know what the hell is going on. We're having some fun with this. I'll get to my serious Penix breakdown in a little bit and let you know if I would draft the young man out of Washington. But why is Penix here in New England? How about this interesting scenario? The Patriots pull the trigger on a trade with Minnesota. They get 11 and 23. But what if the Patriots are trying to build value with that 11 pick? Right? What if they're trying to build value at 11? What if they're trying to make teams feel like they love Penix? So if they move down to 11 within Penix range, according to some, then teams that are interested in Penix would feel like they have to go a little bit overboard in a trade offer to get to 11 to draft Penix. Is Wolf playing the same kind of games, thinking with the 11 pick, as people have thought with the third pick? You're trying to make people feel like you're in love with these quarterbacks, so you're driving the value. So what happens if the Patriots make that deal with Minnesota? They're sitting there at 11. People think they love Penix. The Raiders call. Raiders are at 13. The Raiders want Penix. Eliot Wolf says, we love Penix. We are ready to draft Penix. Unless you make it worth our while to move out of this spot, we're going with your guy. And now the Raiders feel a little bit of urgency, feel a little bit of nervousness, some impatience. And they say to themselves, damn, okay, we didn't want to give up that extra pick, but let's give up the extra pick. We've got to move up to 11 to get Penix. Could be some gamesmanship happening here. The Patriots could be building the value of the pick at 11 if they move down. Now, if you ask me, I would hate a double trade down scenario. As you know, as I've said on this podcast plenty of times, the Patriots are in a position right now to get a blue chip offensive prospect. They move down to 11. They're right on that edge. They're right on that borderline. I would hate the idea of moving from 3 to 11 and then move down additional spots. You have a top 3 pick in this draft. This is your chance to land a game-changing kind of talent. So that's not what I would do. I would hate the double trade down. I'm just putting it out there as a possibility. I've got more thoughts on this. Back to the Super Chats, though. Patrick Thomas, $10 Super Chat. Thank you to Patrick. 9 days, Nick. 9 days. This offseason has taken over my life. I have the draft marked on the fridge calendar saying NFL draft, leave Pat alone. Keep doing great things, man. Love the show. Appreciate you, Patrick. Appreciate the kind words. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the time you invest in this product as we continue to build this bad boy to give you the alternative to some other things out there in the local media. 9 days away. 9 days away. We've got plans. I've told you. We'll be letting you know what we plan to do on draft night on Thursday, April 25th. Already let you know that on Thursday, a week out from the draft, we've got Jeff Howe. Howe will join us. We'll talk Patriots draft. We'll talk NFL draft with Jeff Howe in less than 48 hours from right now. So as Patrick marked his calendar for the NFL draft, mark your calendar for Thursday at 11 a.m. right here with the Nick Cattle Show, Jeff Howe with us. We are also planning to have somebody on the show next week to break down these draft prospects, to look at the Patriots, to look at these prospects, and to give you all of the information about guys that could be drafted by the Pats. We will have somebody on the show next week to give you all of that NFL draft juice that you're looking for. We'll dive deep into some of these prospects. So keep an eye out for that as well. Thank you, Patrick. Always appreciate you, my man. Don't forget to like and subscribe as we continue to push forward. Rate and review on Spotify and Apple Pods. Here's another scenario. What if Penix slides to round 2? What if all of this round 1 stuff is garbage? What happens if Penix doesn't get drafted in the first round? He doesn't get drafted in the top 16. and he slides into round 2. Would this not be a good way for the Patriots to build value for that number 34 pick? Sitting there at 34, second pick in the second round, Penix still on the board, and now you've got all of these quarterback-needy teams that might have not pulled the deal in the first round. I mean, what happens if it is the top 4 quarterbacks, right? What happens if Caleb goes 1, Jaden goes 2, Drake goes 3, and JJ goes 4? Or any kind of mix you want to throw in there. And you have teams like the Giants who didn't move up, or the Vikings, or the Broncos, or the Raiders. Shoot, maybe even the Rams might be looking at Matthew Stafford and saying, our guy's a little long in the tooth. We got to do something here. So maybe you're sitting there at 34 and you've got a quarterback-hungry team who wasn't able to pull a deal off in the first round, and now they are desperate to get that next guy off the board. And you're sitting there at 34. Maybe you're building the value of that pick by having this Penix visit. How about this? Another idea. What if Wolf is using Penix to get a team that wants a quarterback, i.e., Denver, the Raiders? What if the Patriots are having this visit with Michael Penix today at Gillette because they are trying to get a team to beat the Minnesota offer? What if Eliot Wolf is using Penix to try to get a team that's ahead of Minnesota already in the draft to throw a little extra on top of their trade package to move up to 3? Here's a scenario for you. The Giants reportedly are interested in a quarterback. Their ownership has come out and they have said that they've given the okay to the front office. They've given them the green light to bring a quarterback in if that's what the front office wants to do. What if the Giants want to move up? What if the Giants have talked to the Patriots? What if Minnesota wants to move up and Minnesota has talked to the Patriots? Maybe the Patriots don't want to move down to 11. Maybe the Patriots only want to move down into the top 8, right? Maybe they want to move down no further than 8 with Atlanta. So what if Eliot Wolf really loves the idea of moving down to 6 if his quarterback is not there to give himself a chance to draft a Joe Alt? Remember that rumor very early in the process? It might have been Jeff Howe, who's joining us on Thursday, who brought this up. But at the very, very beginning of this process, there was a report that Eliot Wolf would be at least considering drafting an offensive tackle, drafting Joe Alt at number 3. Then we haven't heard anything about that since. Could the Patriots be entertaining the idea, if our quarterback is not there at 3, we trade down to the Giants at 6, we get extra draft capital, and we land a franchise left tackle, a guy who can be the solid rock on the left side of this offensive line for the next 10 to 15 years? Is this a way to get the Giants to feel the pressure? Because if the Patriots are creating the illusion of a deal being made with Minnesota, because if they bring in Penix, the Giants might be looking at it saying, wait a minute, why are they looking at Penix? Do they have a deal with Minnesota? Maybe they have a deal with Minnesota. If they have a deal with Minnesota, we can't trade to 3. We can't get our guy. We can't get our guy. We got to make a deal. So you create the illusion of a deal with the Vikings by bringing Penix in, because Penix makes more sense at 11 or even 23 than he makes sense at 3. So maybe this is a game of chess. Maybe Eliot Wolf is trying to get a team like the Giants to give up a little bit more to move up to 3 So the Patriots move to 6, still get their franchise left tackle, and add more draft capital in the draft to add to the wide receiver room and maybe take a lottery ticket shot at a Spencer Rattler or a Bo Nix. That's another scenario that could be playing out. You want to create the illusion of a Minnesota agreement so these other teams that are interested to move to 3 are feeling that urgency and pressure and might be willing to give up even more. Or this could be the most boring thing in the world. This could be the Patriots just doing due diligence, just getting as much on Penix as they can before he gets into the league, gaining information on the player. Teams do this. Maybe they're just bringing him in to look at him with the fine-tooth comb so they know who he is truly, so he gets drafted by an AFC team and you got to play him a couple of times over the next few years. You have a better book on Penix. It could be that. That's the fun of this part of the year. We don't know. I just laid out possibly, 7, 8 scenarios for you. We don't know which one it is. And that's why GMs do these things. All right. Does Penix interest you? Before I get to my Penix thoughts and break him down as a player, a word about our sponsor. The Nick Cattle Show is brought to you by Warzone Paintball and Airsoft. Warzone has 9 maps on 30-plus acres of land. We're talking multiple villages, trench warfare map, hilltop forts, paintball. They've got airsoft. They've got kid versions of paintball and airsoft, something for every age group starting at 6+. Show up with jeans, good shoes, long sleeve shirt. They will take care of the rest. Casual, low-key, staff is great. Check out Warzone Paintball and Airsoft in North Kingston, Rhode Island. If you're in that area, weather is starting to warm up, you want to go do something cool and different, check them out. Warzone Paintball and Airsoft, North Kingston, Rhode Island. Give them a call at 401-228-6366, 401-228-6366, and tell them the Nick Cattle Show sent you. Thanks to Warzone for sponsoring the program. All right, let's start with the pros for Michael Penix, okay? Let's break him down as a football player. Number one, got a very strong arm. Very, very strong arm. He can whip it. There's no doubt about that. Nobody is going to debate or deny that Penix has an NFL arm. He's got it. He tested really well athletically during his pro day. That surprised a lot of people. It surprised me. Now, I thought Penix was a little bit more athletic and mobile than people were giving him credit for before the pro day, but I did not expect this guy to pop a 4.46 640. And there he was popping the 4.46 640. The vertical was there. The explosion. 36.5-inch vert from Penix. So he showed off his athleticism at the pro day. Everybody knows he's got a rocket for an arm. No questioning that. So those two things you can check. Pressure to sack rate. I talked about this statistic going back a couple weeks ago, right? And how pressure to sack rate, if you look at it, you can say to yourself that it's a 7.6% pressure to sack rate for Michael Penix. It's a pretty big deal because as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, pressure to sack rate going from the collegiate level to the NFL level, if you're looking at that as an indicator, usually this works out where if you're at 20% or so pressure to sack rate, that would tell people you're not going to be as successful in the NFL as you were in college. 20%. Penix, 7.6% pressure to sack rate. He doesn't get sacked. You can compare that to Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is rather high in that statistic, as we've talked about. Caleb Williams is rather high. Drake May is around 18%, I think, for his college career, his 2 seasons together. Last year, he was almost 20%. Penix is at 7.6%. Now, why is that? Well, Penix, he gets rid of the football quickly. He doesn't mess around. He doesn't extend plays very often. When you're talking about Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May, those are guys that tend to try to extend plays, playoff schedule, do as much as they can before they get rid of the football. And so when you're scrambling as much as those other guys, you're going to get sacked more. You're going to get hit more. Penix gets rid of the football. He sees pressure, balls out. Balls out. So the pressure to sack rate for Penix, very, very low. The other thing that you like about Penix is that he overcame a lot of adversity, right? This is a guy with not one but two ACL tears in his lead knee, the right knee. Blew out the ACL twice, came back. Two significant shoulder injuries, came back. Transferred from Indiana to Washington and played balls out all year long. This is somebody who has stared adversity in the face, and he has been able to overcome that adversity time and time again. And that builds character. That builds strength. Had to get through the COVID season. So very strong arm, better athletically than people think. Pressure to sack rate, very low. He has overcome a ton of adversity. He has great touchdown field. You want to talk about throwing a football downfield? This guy can throw the football downfield with great touch. Fantastic touch. You can go see a bunch of throws on film, his time at Washington, where he is just floating that football 30, 40 yards downfield for a Dunze or Jalen Polk. And he is just placing that football downfield, giving his guys time to run. Great touchdown field. One more thing about Penix that I put in the pro column. Before I get to that, don't forget to give us the thumbs up. Give us that thumbs up. More thumbs beats the YouTube algorithm. So give us that like if you like what we do here. Subscribe as well. We hit our goal, 3,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for the support. I think we're doing much better than a lot of people thought we would do, and it's all because of you. So I appreciate that support. I appreciate you liking and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it. We've got Jeff Howe coming up on Thursday. We're going to do some draft talk with a special guest next week you don't want to miss. So give us that like and subscribe. And, of course, rate and review. Those 5-star ratings are fantastic. The reviews are fantastic. Spotify, Apple Pods, thank you. All right, one last pro before some of the things that would concern me about Penix. Intangibles. We talk a lot about intangibles with J.J. McCarthy, right? We bring up the leadership. We bring up the competitiveness. You can say those same kinds of things. Those same kinds of things about Michael Penix. When you look at his intangibles, they're off the charts. He's a leader. He's tough. He's competitive. Again, he has overcome lots of adversity. So when you talk intangibles, Penix is near the top of the list. He is obviously mature because he's been around for a long time. So he's got intangibles in spades. So those are all the good things. Let's get into the not so good. We start with the injury history. And I know, again, he ran a great 40. He had a very good vertical jump at his pro day. But the injury history is real. The injury history is not going away. And yes, he got a clean bill of health at the combine, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be okay, that he's going to give you 10 years of football, because there is wear and tear, because there are hits that he's going to have to take. I remember during the 40 and during the pro day, Doc Flynn tweeted out, it's great to have that vertical and it's great to have that 40-yard dash time, but when you tear your ACL, not once but twice, it's about decelerating. It's about sudden movements, quick twitch, lateral movement. There's a lot of different things that go into the ACL and what could cause another tear of that ACL. So the injury history is significant. The injury history absolutely concerns me. Absolutely concerns me. Number two, Michael Penix's mechanics are a little sporadic. You know, we talk about Drake May and his mechanics. You look at Penix. Penix, he got a little bit of a funky motion, and it's not because he's left-handed. But he kind of has a little bit of a, I don't want to say like a hitch, but it's a little bit of an awkward kind of motion. And so his mechanics, they get a little funky when things are not perfect, when things are not set perfectly for him, when there's not a clean pocket, when he doesn't have somebody open, he's got that first or second read. His mechanics get inconsistent. He gets thrown out of whack, which could cause some issues. Throwing to the middle of the football field, he's not great at that. Penix is not very good at throwing to the middle of the football field. At least he wasn't. At least he wasn't at the collegiate level. And when you think about what the Patriots are going to do here with Alex Van Pelt, West Coast offense, they're going to attack the middle of the field. They're going to throw to the middle of the football field. And so Penix does not have a lot of those great throws to the middle of the field. He's inaccurate to that spot. So is he a great fit for this offense? Is he a great fit for what Alex Van Pelt wants to do? Here's another thing that would worry you about Penix. He had the second worst Pro Football Focus negative play percentage. It's over 10%. Yeah, he's somebody who has taken negative plays more than almost every quarterback that is going to be drafted this year. So his negative play percentage is very high, which is interesting because, again, his pressure to sack rate is very low. So it's not like he's getting pressured, he's getting sacked, he's getting hit. Many would tell you that Washington's offensive line was the best offensive line in college football. So if you look at Michael Penix and the fact that he wasn't pressured a ton, he wasn't sacked a ton, but his negative play percentage was pretty damn high, that would be concerning. Against pressure, he's a little skittish, and that's why he gets rid of the football quickly. He doesn't love pressure. He doesn't look very comfortable consistently against pressure. He gets a little skittish. Again, his mechanics get loose. And when he doesn't get to set his feet, when he doesn't have a clean pocket, and when he doesn't have the ability to truly step into a throw with force, his velocity and his accuracy diminishes. So again, this is somebody who needs a clean pocket to operate in. You look at that Michigan game, national championship game. I've talked about this before. They took away the outside and they took away the downfield throws. And what you saw was a very uncomfortable Michael Penix. Michigan told him, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us underneath. You're going to beat us to the middle of the football field. And so when you look at Penix and the challenge that he faced against Michigan, that's how NFL defenses are going to attack Michael Penix. They're going to try to get some pressure on him. They're going to take away the deep balls. They're going to say, beat us in the middle of the field, beat us in the intermediate, beat us underneath. And Penix had one of his worst games against Michigan in that national championship game because of that. So you have to think about that moving forward, how he struggled mightily. Jeremy Fowler talked to executives and scouts for an ESPN Insider column today. And here's what an executive said to Fowler on Penix throwing the football underneath. Quote, I thought he struggled to play in short and intermediate areas where precision is required in the NFL, though I think he can handle that. So this executive says, yes, he struggles with those throws, but he thinks Penix will inevitably eventually be able to handle those kinds of throws. He says it's just that those windows are bigger in college, so he'll have to adjust when they shrink, unquote. Middle of the field, underneath, intermediate, he's had some issues. What we're talking about is really a pocket quarterback. Penix is not going to throw off schedule very often. He's not comfortable throwing off platform. He's not comfortable creating some of these plays, right? You see Caleb Williams. Williams is running around like a chicken with his head cut off, and then he'll just zip it 30 yards across his body for a ridiculous throw. Drake May has those extensions, right? Well, he'll extend a play. He'll roll outside the pocket. He'll chuck it 50 yards downfield. J.J. McCarthy has some element of that. McCarthy not as strong in that element, but he does have some of that in him that we've seen. On the move, willing to make some plays athletically, he'll do it. Jaden Daniels, not very strong when it comes to, at least from what we've seen at LSU, not particularly strong throwing the football on the move. Usually when Jaden Daniels starts to move, starts to run, starts to scramble, it is to scramble, it is to run. Penix, he's a pocket guy. He's a pocket guy. Again, from Fowler's story, from outside the pocket, Penix completed 38.5% of his throws last year. That was 114th in the country. 114. So when you talk about making throws from outside the pocket, that is not Michael Penix. So he is a in the pocket, clean pocket, point guard kind of quarterback that loves throwing downfield. He's not a creator. He's not an off-schedule guy. He is not an outside-the-pocket passer. He's old school. He's good at it. He's old school. So if you're thinking about somebody of the evolution of the quarterback position and somebody that scrambles around and extends plays and does some fabulous things with their athleticism and their arm off schedule and all the, not Penix. He sees pressure. He's getting rid of it. He's not extending. Now, he can run every once in a while, but again, making plays with his arm by first utilizing his legs or getting outside of that pocket, that's not what he does. That's just not who he is. Got more on Penix? Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Here's another thing about Penix. His accuracy isn't very good or consistent. Pro Football Focus on Penix, of the top 11 quarterbacks on Pro Football Focus's big board, Penix is tied for the worst uncatchable inaccurate pass rate at almost 23%. The best quarterback prospects in recent years, if you're wondering, have generally been below 20% in that metric. So Penix, again, downfield throws, beautiful things to watch. We can't forget about the fact he had Rome Odunze and Odunze's ability to catch footballs in traffic, to catch contested footballs. Odunze's contested catch rate is out of this world. So Odunze helped Penix in a number of those downfield throws in those scenarios. Pro Football Focus has Penix tied for the worst uncatchable inaccurate pass rate out of these 11 quarterbacks at almost 23%. He's not the most accurate guy in the world. Dane Brugler, if you're wondering, had Penix as a second to third round grade, the 52nd player on his board overall, and ranked as the 6th quarterback. All right. A couple more super chats before we continue. Gerard Edward, $5 super chat. Thank you. Imagine Penix playing with Parsons or Judon chasing him down. Penix better stay quick. Yeah, and that's the concern. Look, if you're drafting Michael Penix, you best have an offensive line that can keep that pocket clean because he needs pass protection. He is way better with a clean pocket where he can facilitate. So if you have any thoughts of a quarterback that's going to need to create, going to have to buy extra time, Penix is not your guy. He's not your guy. He's going to stand back there. He's going to whip it, but he's going to need a clean pocket. And he's going to need receivers that can make plays because of that uncatchable pass rate. And that's what he had in Washington. What he had in Washington was the best offensive line in college football, and not one, not two, but three receivers who are going to be drafted in this draft next week. One guy's going top 10 in Rome Odunze. Might be the second, if not the best. And I know Marvin Harrison, but there are people that have studied this draft that will tell you that Odunze could end up being better than Harrison in 2 or 3 years. But that's another debate for another time. You got a top 10 wide receiver in Odunze. You've got Jalen Polk, who might go second round, and you got Jalen McMillan, who can go second or third round. So if you've got receivers that can make plays downfield, outside the numbers, if you've got an offensive line to protect, Penix can kill you, can kill a defense. If you don't have those things and he's forced to do certain things off schedule or that he's not comfortable with, he could melt down like we saw against Michigan in the national championship game. Ken Weber with a $20 super chat. My guy, Ken, coming through. Just a thought, when you have a left-handed quarterback, the right tackle is your main guy as opposed to the usual left tackle. Still need more linemen, but left tackle becomes less of a must-have. He says still may all the way, though. It's a good point by Ken. You know, if you're looking at blind side, if you have a left-handed quarterback, the right tackle is your blind side, which means you have Michael Wenu currently slotted as your right tackle. Do you feel comfortable with Wenu being the blind side protection of somebody like Penix, who, again, is not comfortable in extending plays, gets a little skittish under pressure? Are you comfortable with Michael Wenu protecting the blind side of the guy who's going to be your starting quarterback? If you're picking him, you're planning for him to be a starting quarterback for at least the next 5 or 6 years. If you draft him later, if you draft him in the first round, you're hoping he's the answer for the next 10 years. Are you comfortable with that? An offensive line is a big question. Are you comfortable with this offensive line, given Michael Penix and his game, his style of play? So Ken brings up a great point. Again, can't thank you enough for the $20 super chat, my man. Means the world to me. Thank you. I do not want Michael Penix in the first round. If the Patriots draft Michael Penix in the first round, I will not be a happy man. Too many questions. Too many questions with Penix, especially when you look at the specific fit with this football team. When I look at Michael Penix, I think Penix is a quarterback that somebody like Minnesota would love. And it would make sense to have him there. Minnesota, good offensive line. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. They've got those weapons. So he's more of a fit for a team like that. I don't want Penix with a first-round pick. I don't want that to happen. He needs great protection. He needs downfield receivers. He's going to be 24 years old in May. And he is who he is, which isn't a bad thing, but he is who he is. I don't think you're going to have a ton of growth from Penix. Again, he's going to be 24 next month. I don't think you're going to get that huge pop in play. Here's a quote from the Jeremy Fowler story that I've quoted a couple of times. Here's a quote from an AFC executive about Penix in that story. There's a lot to like. He's like a good point guard with a plus arm. That's something that I said a few moments ago, right? That the point guard mentality. I would not classify him as the type of player who will carry a team. But if he's got a good supporting cast, he can deliver the ball consistently. People get hung up on the left-handed thing, but that doesn't matter. So this AFC executive says he is not. Michael Penix is not the kind of guy that is going to carry your football team. He's a very good facilitator, has a very strong arm, but he's not the kind of guy that is, hey, jump on my back and I'm going to bring you to the promised land. So another way to put it, higher floor, not as high of a ceiling. He is who he is. Now, if you trade for a number 11 and number 23, let's say you pull off that deal with the Minnesota Vikings and you get 11 and 23, and you draft your left tackle and you draft a wide receiver, it's more palatable. To me, it's more acceptable to draft Penix under those circumstances. I don't want him in the first round, but if you pull off the deal with Minnesota and you get 11 and 23 and you get your left tackle and your wide receiver, and then you're looking at Penix at 34, that makes more sense to me. That's more palatable because now you have your left tackle of the future. Now you have a legitimate wide receiver. So now you have more around Penix, which I think makes him better. You're going to have to hit on those two picks. You can't miss. You have to hit on the tackle and the wide receiver. But if that's the scenario, if the Patriots are looking at Penix more with the idea of second round, if we're able to draft some other spots that we need, then that would make more sense to me. Inevitably, I would pass because I'm focused on ceiling. I am focused on the Patriots adding a quarterback that has a high ceiling, taking a big swing. That's what I'm looking at. And Penix, to me, again, would be a better fit for a team like Minnesota, who's trying to win right now, who has the offensive line right now, who has the wide receivers right now. I would be looking at a higher ceiling guy because, to me, it's not about 2024. It's about 2027, 2028. So I would hate the Penix pick if it's the first round. I wouldn't love it if it's the second round. If it is the second round, you best do things to help this team. You best land that left tackle. You best draft a wide receiver. And trading for a wide receiver would be another good idea. But Penix is down the list of quarterbacks for me. Down the list. Rob D says every quarterback would be a bit better fit for Minnesota. True. But what I mean by that, Rob, is, again, how he plays. How he plays the game of football. Penix is a pocket passer. He's a traditional pocket passer. He's not going to create a ton of plays with his legs. He's not going to throw while moving. He needs people to get open. He needs an offensive line to protect. Some of these players can survive situations with not a very good offensive line. They don't necessarily need Justin Jefferson. Of course, everybody would be better in Minnesota. But the point is, Penix would be, I think, much worse in a situation that doesn't have the proper support around him. Jaden Daniels could survive with his athleticism and his running ability. Drake May, maybe not this year, but next year, year after, he could survive because he has made plays off platform. He has shown the ability to throw the football while running. Caleb Williams, he extends plays all the time. So that's the point I'm making. Appreciate the comment. $5 super chat from JN. Penix is a deep ball passer. Pats have no X wide receiver. Give me a quarterback who can take the easy money and convert third downs. Give me both. Inevitably, you're going to have to throw the football down the field, right, JN? Like, inevitably, I would hope right now, as it currently sits, yes, they have no X receiver. We've talked about it. I would imagine they will add that X receiver at some point, whether it's via draft or a trade after the draft, a trade during the draft. They know they need an X receiver. That's why they offered Calvin Ridley $40 million guaranteed. As currently constituted, this roster would be the worst case scenario for a Michael Penix. That's why I said, if you added elements to this offense, then it's more palatable to have Penix. If not, forget about it. If you're going to trade down to 11 and pick Penix at 11, good luck to you. I just don't like that. So he's not great with the easy money. I mean, the quarterback that you're talking about here, JN, is J.J. McCarthy, really, or a Bo Nix. If you want a quarterback who can take the easy money and convert third downs, Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy are your guys. That's who you're talking about. The safe pick. I mean, that's what I get from your super chat, at least. All right, my thoughts on Michael Penix. Don't forget, Jeff Howe coming up on this podcast Thursday to talk draft. Jeff Howe with the latest intel that he has on this draft, what the Patriots might do. That's coming up on Thursday at 11 a.m. right here on YouTube. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up, like the podcast, subscribe. We hit our 3,000 subscriptions goal yesterday. I appreciate that. Thanks for all the support. So that'll be happening as we continue to grow this channel. So thank you. Appreciate you. Rate and review on Spotify and Apple Pods. Something big breaks. We'll be on this channel to break it and talk about it. React today. If not, we're back tomorrow at 11 a.m. sharp. Until then, again, thanks for joining us. This is the Nick Cattle Show.